All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to be taking a look at an article called "Vision for a New Future." It's by Shawn Wondunna-Foley, and it's published pretty recently on January 28th of this year, 2025. And this article really, it's a fascinating read. It presents, a vision of the future. And I don't want to give too much away, but
yeah, well, let's just say it's pretty utopian in nature. I think the author really lays out an ideal world. I think one of the more interesting aspects of the article is the language the author uses, like consistently using one as a pronoun throughout. So, like, instead of saying, I believe or we should, there's always one believes or one should strive for. So it does make you think about, like, the collective nature of this vision. It's not about individual desires,
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's definitely, I picked up on that as I was reading it too, and it definitely adds a certain kind of feel to the whole piece.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. The article starts off, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? It starts off with
absolutely not.
A pretty harsh,
It's a scathing
take on the current system.
Critique of the current system. Yeah. I mean, the author doesn't hold back. They basically argue that the whole system, like the way we live now, is based on this idea of greed and scarcity. It's designed to keep us trapped in this cycle of work and exhaustion.
Yeah.
And they actually point to the fact that just 1% of the world's population controls over 50% of the wealth.
Wow.
Which is a pretty stark statistic.
Yeah, no kidding.
When you think about it.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to argue with. I mean, when you look at those numbers, it's like, it really makes you wonder about the whole,
the whole
work hard and you'll succeed kind of narrative.
Yeah. Like, is it really about hard work or is it something else?
Something else going on, yeah. So, okay. So the author kind of lays out the problem, right? But then they go on to offer some solutions. And that's where I think things start to get really interesting. They talk about creating these
communities of well-being.
Communities of well-being, yeah.
Yeah, which are essentially global networks of people focused on, like, love and compassion and individual growth.
Right.
And the author really paints a picture of, like, abundance. Like, imagine locally sourced organic food for everyone, readily available energy that doesn't harm the planet, everyone's needs being met.
Okay, but back up for a second.
Sure.
When they say free energy, what do they mean by that? Like, are we talking about solar, wind, these kinds of renewable resources?
Well, that's a good question.
Or is it something else?
I mean, the article isn't super specific about the technical details of how this free energy would work.
Okay.
It definitely implies a more fundamental shift in how we, relate to energy. So it could be harnessing some kind of natural resources that we haven't, fully tapped into. Or it could be, some kind of technological breakthrough.
Right. I mean, who knows what the future holds, right?
Exactly.
But, I mean, assuming, even if we can figure out the whole energy situation.
Right.
Is it even realistic to think that we could create these communities on a global scale?
Right.
I mean, it's a pretty massive undertaking.
Oh, yeah. The logistics are mind-boggling, for sure.
Yeah.
But the author seems to believe that if we truly prioritize collective well-being and cooperation, those challenges can be overcome. And they actually draw parallels to, things like, like eradicating diseases or, landing on the moon, which seemed impossible at the time.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I mean, this goes beyond just, figuring out how to share resources, right?
Yeah.
Well, the author talks about prosperity and freedom.
Right.
Like abundance in all aspects of life, world free from war, violence, corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty tall order.
It is.
Given, human history.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the skepticism.
Yeah.
But what if advancements in, technology and communication and even our understanding of human behavior could help us, bridge those divides and foster more cooperation on a global scale? I mean, it's definitely a bold vision, but I don't think it's entirely impossible.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair. I mean, we've certainly seen some pretty incredible things happen in the past.
We have.
So, yeah, it's definitely something to think about. And then there's this whole another big theme in the article is, healing the earth.
Yeah.
Which the author sees as, like, integral to our spiritual evolution.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what does that actually look like?
Well, I think it's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things. It's about humans working in harmony with nature,
Right.
not against it. So, adopting sustainable practices, making sure we prioritize the health of the planet.
Right. And the author actually suggests that, aligning ourselves with the natural rhythms of the earth is a key to our own spiritual growth.
So it's more than just, recycling and driving electric cars. It's like a whole different way of...
It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
In how we view our role on this planet.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, the author kind of ends with this call to action.
Right.
They talk about moving away from what they call the egoic system, which is all about, individual gain and embracing a more... what they call spirit-centric way of life.
Right, which prioritizes collective well-being.
Yeah. But I'm curious, it all sounds great in theory, but do they give any concrete examples of what that actually looks like in practice?
Well, they don't, offer a step-by-step guide.
Right.
But they do highlight some existing movements and communities that are kind of already embodying these principles. Think about eco-villages that are focused on sustainable living.
Organizations that are promoting social justice and equality, or even just, individuals who are choosing to live more mindfully and compassionately.
Right.
So it's really about, finding ways to align our actions with these values. And that can start, even in small ways.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here. We started off with this pretty, stark assessment of kind of where we're at.
Right.
And then we moved into this this vision of, this utopian future, which is definitely ambitious, but, pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
And I think it's clear that, the author truly believes that a different world is possible. And, they're challenging us to kind of
to envision it
and contribute to it.
Yeah. So, that's a pretty powerful message. And I think, it leaves us with some big questions to ponder.
Yeah, definitely. If you had the opportunity to design your ideal community,
right,
what would it look like?
What values would be at the forefront? And, what are some small changes you can make in your own life?
Right.
To, start moving towards that more spirit-centric way of being.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It is.
But, even though we only looked at one article today, it's opened up, a whole world of possibilities.
For sure.
So thanks for joining me for another deep dive.
It's always a pleasure.
Always great to have you. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you then.
All right.